Meeting come to order. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Green?
Here.
Mr. Lyle?
Here.
Admiral Natter?
Here.
Mr. Reeves?
Here.
Mr. Skelton?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Wright?
Here. If we could stand for the invocation, led by the clerk.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of your Son. Help us to be mindful of this precious gift as we celebrate his birth this week. We pray for peace around the world, beginning with peace within our own hearts. We remember tonight Councilman Skelton and his family on the recent death of his mother. Be with them in the days ahead and give them comfort. We place in your care our military and their families, especially those who are apart during the holidays. Father, bestow your wisdom and guidance on this mayor and council in their decision making. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Each of you received. I'll go with the mayor here. Mayor, you got a report first.
I need to get Chief Wingate. Can you come down? I saw him back here earlier. There he is. Chief Wingate missed the employee recognition due to some health issues, and we didn't want it to go by without you being recognized. If you read that.
Mr. Water, if you will.
This is the chief. This is Chief John Wingate 40-year recognition. Chief Wingate joined the Hoover Fire Department in June of 1975 after beginning his career at the age of 16 at the Bluff Park Volunteer Fire District. He also worked as a paramedic in the original Mercy Hospital emergency room and taught in the early days of the paramedic program at UAB. Throughout his 40-year career in the Hoover Fire Department, he has held the positions of Fire Marshal, Battalion Chief, and he was appointed Fire Chief in 2009. Along with being married to the city of Hoover for 40 years, he has been married to his wife Sandra for 40 years as well. He and Sandra have 2 children and 2 grandchildren. Thank you for your service, Chief.
Each of you received a copy of the minutes of the 12/7 regular meeting and 12/17 work session. So I'll take a motion.
President, I move that the minutes be approved as presented without reading.
Second. Have a motion second. Any discussion of the council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. Need a motion to reschedule the Monday, June 18th meeting of the city council to Tuesday, June 19th, and cancel work session for New Year's Eve so that people can watch football games.
President, I move as stated.
Second. I have motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's approved. Resolution number 535015. Mr. Wallace.
This resolution reaffirms the city of Hoover's financial commitment to the Hoover Board of Education through the provision of $2 million to the Hoover Board of Education each fiscal year to be dispersed quarterly. The provisions of this resolution shall continue in full force and effect until rescinded, repealed, or modified by the council. Further, the provisions of this resolution shall become retroactive to October 1 of this year upon its adoption.
Mr. President, I would move for approval of the reaffirmation of resolution 5350-15.
Second. Motion is second. Discussion for the council. Any from the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Lyle?
Aye.
Admiral Natter?
Aye.
Mr. Reeves?
Aye.
Mr. Skelton?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye. That's a $2 million check. No discounts and no money comes back. Resolution number 535115. Mr. Waller.
This resolution authorizes the city to provide 100% of the funding for school resource officers, also called SROs, within the Hoover City Schools. This funding shall be in addition to the annual contribution allocated to the Board of Education, as stated in resolution number 535015, which is adopted. The provisions of this resolution shall continue in full force and effect until rescinded, repealed, or modified by the council. Further, the provisions of this resolution shall become retroactive to October 1, 2015 upon its adoption.
Mr. President, I would move for approval resolution 5351-15.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion from the council? Currently, the city's been making a $2 million contribution, and the cost of the SROs is about $975,000. The schools would pay half. This will be at $2 million that the city will pay in total, and we'll have 100% funding of the SROs. Any other comments from the council?
Mr. President, you know, this resolution is one that affects public safety, and whether our residents are walking the streets or in their homes or in a place of business or even in the schoolhouse, it's the city's responsibility to protect those citizens. So I'm proud of the council and you, Mr. President, for allowing this on the agenda, and it has my full support.
If the clerk call the roll.
Take comments from the audience?
Good, come on.
Thanks. Just real quick.
Hi, my name is Tricia Crane. I live on Thornton Drive, been here since 1970. As you consider this resolution, I hope that there will be a memorandum of understanding or something in writing about what the role of the police are in our schools, and will include information about training. It's been a verbal agreement all these years, which I've watched along as the Meridian Police Department went through the trial about the pepper spray, and was amazed at how little was actually written down on paper, and what was written wasn't really pertinent. So I hope, I don't know if Chief Durgis is here. Hey, I hope that y'all can sit down and come up with some good, solid understanding so that the community will know what SROs are supposed to be doing. They're doing fine. I'm not saying they're not, but now we have this opportunity to really get it down in written format. Thank you.
There is a memorandum of understanding.
Right now?
Right now.
You know, Brandon's requested didn't get it. I guess I'll look for it again.
Thank you. If the clerk call the roll.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Lyden?
Aye.
Randall Banner?
Aye.
Mr. Reeves?
Aye.
Mr. Skelton?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye. Resolution passes. And resolution 53-5215. Walter.
This resolution authorizes and directs the city's finance department to make an annual payment to the Hoover Board of Education of the city's collected total of $1,500 front door fees charged with the issuance of each new residential construction permit. This transfer of funds is to be in addition to the annual contribution allocated to the Board of Education as stated in Resolution 53-5015, and is retroactive to October 1 of this year.
Mr. President, I would move for approval resolution 5352-15.
Motion second. Discussion from the council.
Mr. President, I had a little confusion from Thursday night. In the resolution, it says it will be paid annually, beginning with the 2016 budget year. So the one and only payment would be at the end after we know what those numbers are.
Is that correct?
The resolution makes it retroactive back until October 1, and then it will be paid at the end of the 2016 year, once we know how many building permits were issued.
President, Mr. Pate, on the average, how many building permits have the city issued during the last few years?
340. If this had been in effect last year, your payment to the Board of Education would have been $460,000.
Thank you.
When I first got on the council, we were doing this, and three mayors back, and the council, three councils back, chose to take this away from the schools, and I protested it, and then superintendent, 3 or 4 superintendents back, said it was okay, the schools get along fine without it, and we're reinstating that tonight. Any further discussion from the audience? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Lyden?
Aye.
Randall Banner?
Aye.
Mr. Reeves?
Aye.
Mr. Skelton?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye. This resolution passes. We have Dr. Kathy Murphy, our outstanding leader and new school superintendent, and we welcome you down. Wish you a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, sir. The same to you. Mr. Wright, our councilman, Mr. Mayor, I just want to thank you for this additional about $1.3 to $1.5 million additional that will be coming to our school district. I am certainly of the opinion that as public school goes in the city, so goes the city. And so I'm extremely grateful that you're embracing and that you're identifying other ways that you can support our students. I don't believe there's ever been a wasted dollar that was invested in the education of children. And so from that, I'm just so grateful, and I'm representing those almost 14,000 students to say thank you very much. I look forward to continuing to have conversations with you. I look forward to continuing to collaborate with you as we look for other and additional ways that we can continue to support our school district. But thank you very much for this 1.5 this evening.
Thank you. We're now going to have a public hearing. Mr. Alan Pate, our executive director, will introduce the material for us.
Be happy to, sir. Councilman Wright, I'm here tonight representing the mayor and the Hoover Park Board and the approximately 900 volunteer coaches that we have that work with our children in sports and athletics each week. What will be presented to you tonight and to the public is a proposal to construct a major sports complex in the city of Hoover. The city of Hoover has not constructed a single new athletic field since the year 2000. Excuse my voice, it's going and coming. The park board, as well as the staff and many of you, have received requests for additional facilities. These requests have been increasing in their urgency, and our construction lags behind. Because of this, for the last several years, we have been looking at different options for construction of a sports complex. For many reasons, we believe the option that we will show you tonight to be the best option for this type of facility. We have a brief PowerPoint presentation that we would like to present to you. Now, I'd like to ask Jeffrey Brewer, who is the regional president of Goodwin Mills and Kaywood, to step forward and make the presentation. Now, on the agenda, immediately following the presentation, are 3 resolutions that I respectfully request on behalf of these individuals that you approve. The last 2, I would like for you to approve them subject to city attorney review. And with that, Mr. Brewer.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mr. President, members of the City Council, Honorable Mayor. I want to thank you so much for this opportunity. It's an incredibly exciting opportunity. My name is Jeffrey Brewer. My address is 2701 First Avenue South. We've got about 12 to 14 slides, so it'll be 5 to 10 minutes roughly presentation. Then there's a short little video at the end that I'm excited to share with you, just kind of a fly around of the potential project. So I'll dive right in, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Can everyone see this okay? The image that's up on the screen here is an exterior view of a proposed new multi-purpose indoor event center. As you can see from the slide here, you're immediately adjacent to the existing Hoover Met baseball field. So imagine if you were out the down the first base line, the right field. It sits on partially the existing RV lot, if you will, and I'll show you a site plan of that in a moment. The overall square footage of the facility is roughly 145,000 square feet. Some components of the design obviously would be this would be the front entry, accessible for buses and school children that are coming to the facility. Also, there's a performance center, an athletic performance center to try to maximize athlete performance. There is a food court facility, which would be in the back of the project, would also support events for the outdoor rec fields, which I'll share with you in a moment. So you can begin to see how this facility would connect to the existing Hoover Met and architecturally tie together as if they were planned that way from the very beginning. If you were to look sort of at an aerial view, look down into the facility here, you roughly, this shows you 9 basketball courts, for example, that could be constructed inside a clear span facility. Roughly, this is the size of a football field that's under roof at this point. So again, this would be the performance center in the top left, the food court area here, and as you can see in this image, there is an elevated walking track which would wrap the perimeter of the interior, roughly 3 lanes. It's about a 1/4 mile loop around the indoor of the facility. By the way, these 9 courts are NCAA regulation size, so they could accommodate AAU type events here. I should have mentioned before, but in each case, there's roughly about 1,000 seats that you could accommodate with removable bleachers that could come in. In this picture here, this shows you a volleyball setup. So the facility is multi-purpose in nature. In other words, we can do really just about any sport, but we've illustrated just a few here. This shows you a 12-court volleyball setup. Again, it's column-free, completely open. You could imagine here, this is 39 feet to the eave on the sides, and then 62 feet clear in the middle, out in the center of the facility. So a facility like this, if you could think about it, it starts with a concrete floor, and then the hard court surface comes in on top of that, and then you have the ability to add even a layer on top of that for turf sports. So as you can see here in these multi-sport setups, if you wanted to set up an indoor lacrosse or a soccer event, you could do that on a synthetic surface on the interior. And then down here you see the essentially a 100-yard football field, which you could do a 7-on-7 tournament or any sort of practice. Really the only thing you can't do football-wise is punt inside. Interesting slide here. So if you begin to think about doing multi-sports at one time through the use of netting, you can, for example, here we have a 50-yard football set-up in conjunction with a volleyball. You could do batting cages and a basketball court all simultaneously, if you'd like. So if you were to think about the interior shell, just the volume of a project like this, I think I mentioned to you before, this is the 39 feet on the side, 62 feet in the center. If you've been in collegiate indoor practice facilities, that's roughly the volume, if you happen to have been in one recently. And then you can see around the perimeter of this line here is the elevated track. It's roughly 14 feet to the track around the outside. But as I'm reminded, this is not just a sports event center. You know, one of the really nice attributes about a project like this is the ability to host different kinds of events here. So as I mentioned before, if you have a concrete floor, it's really like a civic center floor for you. And this slide here depicts roughly 300 10-by-10 booths that could be set up in a trade show configuration. This is an interior shot of the same venue where you saw the football surface in there, but it could be used for a banquet setup. This is illustrating 10 top tables, roughly 2,400 seated for a banquet style. I would note that the facility would be supported with an AV system to be able to accommodate an event like this. We do not plan to cook the food here for an event like this, but it would have the catering support systems to be able to cater a large event of this type. And then if you really had a large event where you needed a significant amount of seating for like a graduation, or for example, if you wanted to have a concert, a band concert, this size facility would seat roughly 5,000 patrons. Again, with the AV systems to support an event of this scale. So if I could sort of back out just kind of orient you where we would be proposing this project. This is an aerial view, and you can see kind of the signature Hoover Met Stadium here. Stadium Trace Parkway runs along the north side. Hoover High School is just off the screen here. And the area that's designated in blue is roughly 120 acres that would house not only the event center, but the outdoor sports fields, which I'll get to in just a moment. So the master plan, same view here. I'm just reorienting everybody. That's the Hoover Met Stadium right here. The event center that we just talked about would be immediately adjacent to right field out of the Met. The components of the plan here, if I could just run through these real quick. The event center is 140,000 square feet. The proposal is to construct 6 new regulation-sized soccer fields, which are synthetic surface. These soccer fields could also double as lacrosse fields. They could also be rotated 90 degrees, as you see in this configuration here, so that you could effectively double the number of fields for youth sports. In other words, you don't need the full NCAA length for rec soccer, for example. So you could actually make this into a 12-field complex. On the southern half, we have an 8-field baseball and softball complex planned with all the support facilities necessary. Again, this would be a synthetic surface, which allows you to get back on the surface quicker after rain events. It also reduces your water usage. You don't have to worry about it tearing up. Your maintenance cost is less. So basically everything in green here would be proposed as a synthetic surface. I would mention too that in the outfields of the baseball field, you could also have recreational football and soccer in the outfields because it is a synthetic surface there. Note in the lower quadrant here, a 15-court new tennis complex, which would be equipped with a pro shop and some covered outdoor seating for spectators, so you could have a tournament event at this tennis complex. Also in the center here, you see a large event lawn. You know, if you've been to any of these recreational tournaments, you see the tent city set up where everybody sets up. So we're providing a place that's organized for that to happen. And then immediately adjacent to that, you would see a location for a splash pad for the kids and a recreational park, a playground. And then we need the parking to support all this. So roughly 1,700 new parking spaces are planned to support the event. That puts your total parking capacity at the Met complex at roughly 5,000 cars, which is an incredible infrastructure to be able to support events here. And then, you know, ringing the park would be walking trails that total roughly 2 miles of passive trails around the park. This is a sort of what we call a bird's eye view. If you were in a helicopter sort of looking over the project, you see the tennis complex that I mentioned, the baseball complex, baseball, softball, the event area, and the soccer lacrosse in the back. And then this is the event center modeled in, and you can see the connection over to the Hoover Met. So the trend really around the country is a shift by cities away from traditional civic centers, more to what you hear the term sports tourism, and a multi-purpose indoor venues that are not just for civic functions, but also provide important sports opportunities. And they're not only incredible recreational assets for the community, but they're also significant positive economic impacts to the city. These figures here are really from the projections from the Greater Birmingham Convention and Visitors Bureau. So if you'll bear with me, this will actually hopefully animate here. If I can get this to play. So we're just going to sort of fly around the project. This is obviously over the baseball complex. associated parking. The tennis would show up in the foreground. You see the existing Met in the background and the parking lot that exists there today. You really get a sense of how the two venues can begin to work together. You're coming in really at the front door of the event center. You can see the drop-off canopy there, and then a new plaza, an outdoor plaza space, and a canopy that would connect the existing concourse to the Met. It was really interesting to us as we looked at this, how impressive the new facility is as it relates to if you were in the Met or if you're coming down Stadium Trace, just how prominent it would be adjacent. And then you can begin to see the soccer and lacrosse fields in the background and how all this ties together for what could be an incredible facility unlike any that we've seen in the market. Really set the bar here in Hoover. Mr. President, that concludes the presentation. Thank you.
You did a good job.
Well, thank you.
Does the council have any questions for Mr. Brewer?
Yes, sir, I've got a couple. The synthetic surface within the building, do you know what the composite's gonna be?
We have the expert right here. Ed Norton and Yan, we've had a lot of discussion about this. The buildup is likely to be a concrete base and then the sports floor next, which provides the cushion and support.
What comprises the sports floor?
It's a snap court type system, synthetic. It's a kind of a plastic made up system that has shock absorbers in it. Very common use in recreational sports of this type.
It's not including used tire parts?
No, we would not go with the crumb rubber system for this. It would, and then the synthetic surface would be, because of the cushion that we get from the sports court, would be a thin pad that would give us the G-Max requirements to meet current standards for the industry.
Next, how would you handle the water runoff with all the additional asphalt and playing fields so it doesn't run into the Cahaba?
That's a very good point. We're obviously focused on low impact development, so where we can have stormwater management features, we've got a place located right here, which is the low point of the site. I apologize, that's not rendered right there, to collect this stormwater and filter it before it leaves the site. And we'll obviously be going through all environmental approvals necessary prior to starting any construction.
And who provided your economic outlook?
This was the Greater Birmingham Convention Visitors Bureau.
How many of these have they done?
I'm sorry, I don't know that, the answer to that.
So how did they base their information to determine this type of income flow?
Well, I'll have to defer to the city, maybe Al and Dave requested the study. That wasn't part of our scope.
Additional questions from the council? Questions from the audience? Yes, sir, if you can come down. What's your name?
Thank you for your time. My name is Richard Biso. I live in Hoover at 1021 Mountain Oaks Drive, and have been involved with youth sports for a number of years, 18 years plus, and involved with the soccer community, as well as on the youth sports council meeting with other football and tennis, baseball, lacrosse, and all the other sports. We have obviously been waiting on something like this for our youth, which our youth are also part of the education system as well. And we've all had kids that participate, also 900 volunteers. The one thing that we have seen traveling throughout the country and playing in sports, Wide World of Disney, Mike Rose in Memphis, is not only our economical impact. We spend anywhere from $500 to $800 per weekend per family to attend these type of events. It would be outstanding to have that here in our community where we could draw that type of impact to us. I think that one of the things that was asked about the impact and numbers, I know when we did a study with the Mike Rose Center, where they have 21 soccer fields and not even a multi-sport complex, and their economical impact some 10 years ago was over $1.5 million in profit just from the facility. And now talking about with the economic impact of hotel stays, parking, restaurants, and things of that nature is just incredible. And what it could do not only for our youth sports and also the city of Hoover to attract people to build, move, live inside of Hoover instead of going to other things are outside would be tremendous. The other thing that the sports complex would do for our community is bring it on par with other communities that we have to go to, that have events that bring in teams and things of that nature. The one thing that is outstanding that I thought was the presentation of the indoor facility, having trade shows and things like other revenue sources that could come into the city. Hotel stay, lodging tax, things of that nature would be tremendous. I know how much we pay when we travel. And I always compare it to something like Walt Disney World does with their worldwide sports. And if they're going to build a multi-sport complex to have people come in to draw more people to them, and they already obviously would go to Disney World for other reasons, but there's something to sports and tourism and coming in with that. So I want to thank y'all for considering this. It's been a long time that I've wanted to see something like this done. And it would be a huge impact to what the city could do with money, I think, to go out back to education, other things, other projects, will allow us to do even more for our kids.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
Evening. My name is Steve Ertz. I live on Lock Lane. This is one of the better attended city council meetings we've seen in a while, and I think it speaks to the passion on both sides of the argument. Personally, I'm not sure if this is good or bad for Hoover. I'd like a little more time to think about it. This was introduced in the agenda Thursday afternoon, and here we are 4 days later, and I believe you guys are set to vote on it. And this is 3 days before Christmas. I don't think that this time frame gives the city of Hoover and the taxpayers enough time to consider all this means. This is a $70 million project. That's 50% of the annual budget of the city of Hoover. That's a significant amount of money for such a short period of time for the taxpayers.
This would be a bond issue.
I understand, but the taxpayers are going to have to pay for it eventually, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I would encourage you to postpone the vote until the January 19th meeting at the earliest. If it does come to a vote tonight, I would encourage each of you to abstain from voting. To vote yes or no on this tonight, to me, says that, and I think it says to a lot of citizens of Hoover, that you think that spending money of this magnitude at such short notice is okay. I would encourage all of you to abstain from voting tonight. Thank you.
My name is Kurt Posey. I live at 238 Cambridge Drive. Looking at this, I'm a little torn on it as well. Being one of the 900 volunteer coaches and coaching U6 soccer, I like that because we've been playing uphill at Trace Crossings a little bit, and that's the strategic advantage if you really want going uphill. I have a couple of questions and a comment. One of them is I really think we need to look at an economic study. I hear what you're saying about these tournaments coming in and everything, and do understand that brings an economic impact, but we're talking about $70 million over these years, and my concern, having young children, is that this would come in and, if we weren't getting the economic impact we're talking about, our fees would go up to play these sports. And I understand with a better facility, it's going to cost more money to play, but I don't want to see it go 3 times. One of the things that happened on my team this year is I had a child who they were playing in the Homewood Soccer Club, and they moved over. Outstanding player, but the reason he moved over was because we had a better program. And I don't want to see people leave and go to Homewood and Vestavia just because of the price. I don't think that's right. I want to look at that, look at the economic impact of what these tournaments will bring in. Like you said, 7-on-7, moving the Hoover 7-on-7 over there would be something that would be good and bringing a bigger impact. We could talk about more teams outside, or maybe making it larger. The other question I have that wasn't covered in the presentation I'll ask you is what becomes of the Met? when you look at that drawing, you look at all the fields and everything around it, the net kind of looks old and kind of, you know, off to the side, like it matches, but the field doesn't look like it's been updated or anything like that. Is there a plan to find, maybe through this facility, a tenant for the Met? A permanent tenant? Do you know, do you guys know?
Mr. Pate, you want to have that?
I'll be happy to, Mr. Wright. The Met continues to get used, I think, more than realized. And I believe when we were doing a budget this year, the council asked for a list of the events that happened at the Met last year. And if I'm not mistaken, it was 3 typewritten pages, single space, that showed you exactly what goes on at the Met. Personally, I believe the revenue from the Met is better now than it was when we had a permanent tenant there. I think the Met continues to thrive. I think you have been generous with us to let us maintain it and keep it in top-notch condition over the years. And I think you're absolutely correct. The grass does need some attention. And assuming we can get a new contract, hopefully with the SEC baseball tournament, then that field would be upgraded.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Question, Mr. Pope?
Thank you.
Mr. President, would you prefer we ask questions after the motions, or are you okay entertaining a question or two?
Let the public this time. Would you like to say?
Yes.
Question?
My name is Amanda Traywick, and I live at 2308 Berkshire Lane. I'm here tonight as a parent of a child who plays lacrosse. I've actually had 3 that have played, as also a member of the Hoover Youth Lacrosse Board. I bring to you, which I'm sure you've seen, pictures of where our kids play. We have a very fast-growing sport. Lacrosse is one of the fastest-growing sports in the United States, and Hoover is no exception. Over half of our teams have had to play on Hoover East, and this is what it does when it rains. Now, this is the extreme. But I wish I could quote to you how many practices we had to cancel and reschedule and cancel and reschedule. We don't have a place to play. You know, our parents are paying money for their kids to play, and we're having to cancel games. We're having to cancel practices. This is fabulous from a board standpoint, from a parent standpoint, to be able to go and play in a facility like this. It's amazing. It's amazing, and we would love to see Hoover approve something like this for our kids, because sports just aren't about playing sport. It's a learning environment for our kids, not just, you know, education going to school. These kids learn sportsmanship. These kids learn how to get along with others. These kids, it keeps them occupied. We need to give them facilities that teach them all these wonderful life lessons that they learn outside of school. So we hope that you will approve this and are very excited about it. Thank you.
Additional questions or comments in the audience that we haven't heard already? Yep.
Hey, I'm Shane Sears. My address is 691 Lake Crest Drive. I think this is an awesome project. I coach both soccer and football. I think it's a great thing for the city of Hoover. Now, I have a little bit different slant on this project than a lot of people do. I own that little spit of land where that little tiny brown building is right there. And the only question I have is regarding construction. Is there any traffic flow problems that you anticipate from Mineral Trace to Feldspar? Feldspar is that little tiny, I call it the RV road. I don't know if it's got a different name. But I'm concerned about the construction traffic. How will that happen?
Behind you, Mr. Pate.
I'm gonna let Tim, who's a traffic engineer, address that.
This is Tim Westover.
Yes, Mr. Wright. We're still developing the plans for this as we go through, but from a traffic standpoint as this thing operates, it will not be in conflict and operating at the same time. We're currently experiencing our peak traffic out there on Stadium Trace Parkway. Feldspar is really a minor roadway in the process, and I wouldn't expect it to impact it at all.
Does that satisfy you, sir?
Fair enough for me, and I would ask y'all to approve it tonight. Thank y'all.
Hey, I'm Dustin Chandler, live in Inverness Point. I'm on the east side. Everybody ever go to 280? Don't go today or tomorrow or the end of the year. My comments are kind of emotional for me due to the fact that really this is about children. That's all this decision is about, whether it's sports or education. I feel there's a split in the community. Are we going to be talking about education, or are we going to be talking about sports? It's all about children. If you approve it tonight, I think a gentleman just said this was brought up on the agenda last Thursday, and we all just figured out about it on social media. But I asked for it to be continued for one reason. If everybody can vote yes tonight and look at us in the eye and say that our education system, and that includes every child, not talking about just general ed, special ed, and every single child in our system, every one of them. If we can look at each other in the eye and say that we are operating at a top-notch level, top shelf, one of the best in the state, because some parents I talk to have left the city of Hoover to go to other cities, just like the previous lady or gentleman was saying, hey, we don't want children to leave our system to go play at another ball field. I'm not saying we don't need new ball fields. I'm saying I question the timing of this and why so fast. $70 million, I don't know all the statistics, but I do know it affects children. It affects taxpayers. We have to pay the bond back. And if we can look at each other eye and literally say, hey, our educational system for all children, not general ed, but also special ed, that we're giving them the best top shelf education that we can give them. And we're not putting our education departments at deficits and having to figure out ways to cut, to trim that down, to flush it out. By all means, approve it. But if we can't sit here and look at each other and say that, then I think we need to continue it. I think it's fair to everybody in the room to get more information. This is the first I've seen of it. I don't know about you guys. But we've got to start making decisions, and it's $70 million decisions, and giving us, the people of City of Hoover, time to think about it. And if we all agree that we need it, I'm all for it. But we've got to think about all angles, and obviously that involves education. And so I asked for a continuance. I don't know if it's going to be at the January council meeting or not, but we need to bring in everybody into this discussion and see, talk to the parents, talk to your constituents that vote you guys in. This year, it's an election year. Talk to all of them and ask them, do we have the best educational system for all kids in our school? And are we putting our education at a deficit and having to figure out ways to figure out how to do that? I agree. I would love for my children to go out there and play. I would also like to make one other point. If we do build a playground, make it an inclusive playground. Don't forget children that can't walk. I have one of those kids. And I'll tell you right now, and why I asked for the continuance in my last statement, is when you hear a therapist tell you in our city school system, and she'll remain nameless, or he, that we're using old equipment for my daughter to be able to stand, and we can approve $70 million for a sports complex, it's not acceptable. If we want to go through our schools to make sure we have top-notch equipment for our children that can't walk, talk, and feed themselves, and we can look at this, I'm fine. That's a fair playing field, no pun intended. But I ask for a continuance, and thank you for your time.
Arnold Singer, 613 Riverhaven Place. Whoa. Stop and take a breath. to receive a liquor license requires going through the zoning board and then 2 readings at the city council before approval. Yet y'all want to spend $70 million, but withheld any details until just a few minutes ago, and are willing to run this resolution to authorize funding for the project, followed by authorizing the mayor to execute architectural services agreement with Goodwin Mills and Cowwood, Inc., followed by authorize the mayor to execute a construction management services agreement with Bradford and Gorey. You all forgot to include the previously tabled hotel lodging tax, which I imagine when it was tabled previously, said, wait, we will have a project coming down the road that would justify the lodging tax. And I would imagine that'll be something coming up. This is not a shotgun wedding. The presentation of the idea of constructing a stadium for the Birmingham Barons was not presented for approval and funding at a single meeting of the City Council. And we should not do that now. When I look at the preliminary agenda for this meeting, it said, Mr. Alan Pate, Executive Director presentation, followed by resolution number 5353-15, authorize funding for the project, motion to approve. To many of us here tonight, it brings back memories of the vague wording of a Hoover Board of Education meeting agenda, which resulted in the Board of Education vote eliminating school buses. We cannot and should not live through such a quick rush to approve. My very strong recommendation is to table these resolutions for at least 90 days to give yourselves and the residents a chance to understand what's being proposed. The mayor and council of the city of Hoover, the Hoover City School Superintendent and Board of Education, as well as the residents and businesses of this community, need to know where we are headed. If the mayor and council are committed to this sports complex, then I strongly recommend that the mayor and council sponsor all the costs associated with high school sports at Hoover City Schools. Make that an all-in commitment as an additional resolution similar to that covering all the costs for the school resource officers. Thank you.
Any additional questions, comments from the audience? Mr. Lyder, do you have something?
I do.
Excuse me, go ahead, sir.
Good evening. My name is John Parker. I live at 1699 Oak Park Lane, and I'm president of the Hoover Hoover Softball Association. Sorry. There was a comment made about our parks and our facilities are just a little bit, haven't been upgraded in quite a long time. As our park hosts teams from all over the Southeast, from Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, believe it or not, our biggest complaint is our bathroom. We don't have enough. We have 2 stalls for the females to use the washroom. We have sometimes 30, 40 females in line waiting to use it, players trying to get to the bathroom. There's a lot of lines cut and upset people. It's time to build something like the Sportsplex. It's time to upgrade our facility. It's time to give the kids who sign up for sports, when it rains, and all the stress of going with rescheduling practices, rescheduling games. We have jobs. You spend half our day on a work day trying to figure out where we're going to practice, where we're going to play, how are we going to schedule the makeup, where is it going to be scheduled, how it's going to be made up, can we play on Sunday, can we play on Saturday. There's a lot more that goes into the back end of making these children play. This is a sports community. It's a great community. I'm proud to see this. Members of my board are very proud to see this. We host tournaments 9 months out of the year. There's 50, 60, 70, 150, 180 teams that will come into the city, but they're spread out everywhere. We can only host 35 of them, the max. We'd love to put 180 teams with parents and siblings and grandparents and aunts and uncles in Hoover. Put them in hotels, put them in restaurants, let them buy gas, all in one venue, not all over this place. Folkdale, Liberty Park, Trustville, like to bring them all into one park. We can maximize their money, their tax dollars. I'm in a process as president of scheduling tournaments for 2016. I have 5 different organizations asking me for a field space. I can only give them so much. We have 6 fields. The guys there do great jobs on our fields. We can only use 4 because of the size of them. They're outdated. This complex will give us 11 fields, plus our park. I'll be able to host all the tournaments for all the associations. We can make money. The city can make money. We can reduce our fees because we do make money in our concession stand. We have a decent bank account. We don't raise our fees. We lower them. We do the best we can to give every child an opportunity to play softball in our park. In conjunction with the National Pro Fast Pitch, we can host pretty big tournaments out here. I ask you to approve this for the children who play sports in our community: lacrosse, football, soccer, softball, baseball, who wrestle, volleyball, tennis, and for the business community that can actually host a trade show. That, I thought, was a pretty decent add-on to the indoor complex. Thank you.
Excuse me, I'm not, public speaking is not my forte, but
Tell us who you are first.
Ricky Phillips, President of the Park Board here in the city of Hoover. First of all, isn't it wonderful that we live in a place where each of us can get up on each side of the issue and voice our opinion and still be able to walk out. And I assure you that tonight, on behalf of the Park Board, I'm not standing here to recommend this to affect the special need children or any of that, because one of the proudest moments of being on the Park Board I've ever had was this past year, when the Park Board and the mayor and the council, we opened the all-inclusive park that we opened this past year for the special needs kids. Let me first speak as a member of the Park Board. Over the last 10 years, our membership in the Hoover Rec alone, family memberships, have doubled from 4,000, 5,000 to 10,000. We went from not only worried about where we're going to park cars, but where all these kids were going to participate in sports. The fastest growing sport in the state of Alabama, and I travel from the Tennessee line to the Gulf of Mexico, the fastest growing sport is lacrosse. Now, it's easy to say that, we're going to find spaces, let's table this. But the problem with lacrosse, the football parents hate it, the soccer parents hate it, because lacrosse destroys the fields. One night of lacrosse, the field's destroyed for soccer and for football. So, as a park board, you're sitting there, and believe me, this decision is not rushed. We've been beating this drum with the council and everyone for the past 10 years, begging for these fields. So let me speak then as a parent who lived in Hoover for 30 years, coached Little League basketball for 6 years. And I used to wonder why I had a practice on a Tuesday night at 9:30 for an 8-year-old kid, because that was the only place we could practice basketball. And half the kids couldn't be there because the parents, they wanted them to go to school the next day and be able to learn. And it's gotten so bad for us trying to find facilities. I don't think it's one side against the other side, because I look at the Park and Rec as a big plus for the city. It gives our kids something to do. And believe me, they're participating. Thousands of kids that we have to find spaces for each month.
in each day, this right here is a godsend. Not only that, then as a parent that traveled, and believe me, each of you that have done it hated it. Every weekend, and it was expensive. Every weekend you got in a car, and believe me, I hate soccer. And my sons both played soccer. And I traveled from Atlanta to Mobile to Montgomery. To try to find a hotel was impossible. To try to get a restaurant was impossible, with 30 kids screaming and throwing stuff everywhere. It was impossible, but every city you went into was full. This will pay for itself. There's no doubt, as a parent that's been going to these events for all those years, and of course, mine have been long gone from me. But I asked on behalf of the park board, the 900 coaches, and the many, many kids of the city of Hoover that you approve this tonight. And I promise you, this is not a rush to judgment. We've been begging for this forever. Thank you.
I'm Dan Fulton. I live on Alford Avenue. I just had a question for Mr. Pate. Mr. Pate, how many different proposals did you receive on this plan?
Mr. Fulton, I could tell you for the last 2 years, we have looked at several different layouts on several different sites. I mentioned earlier tonight, and I hope Councilman Reeves don't mind me saying this, but when he first got appointed to the city council, he was kind enough to go to each department head and ask you, tell me what your most pressing need is and what you're working on and what are you doing. And when he came to my office, one of the first things I showed him was a park layout on a different site. It was not this layout, and it was on a different site. So this is not a rush decision. We're primarily here because the city owns the land with the exception of 17 acres. It is next door to the Hoover Met, and we feel like they will complement each other.
Have you sought proposals from other companies?
You mean as far as architectural fees? No, sir, I have not. I won't try to get into that, but those are professional fees, and I think by state law they're prohibited from bidding against each other. So it's a professional fee contract. I will tell you this, that the state of Alabama has an architectural fee schedule that they set. We are 1/4% below what's recommended by the state.
Thank you, Mr. Booth. Any additional questions? We'll bring it to an end here. Ms. Craig?
Hi, Tricia Crane again. I'm just curious. I consider myself up on things, and my appreciation to John Anderson for writing about this. This did get by me somehow. Can anybody tell me, I mean, there's been some work that's been put into this, obviously. These are great drawings, and, you know, somebody's been working on this for a long time. I understand the lacrosse community learned about it weeks ago, but the general public, like I say, I consider myself tuned in, but I missed this somehow. Can y'all can anybody give an idea of the genesis of when did, I'm just curious, like, obviously there's been good work done with this. I know, like, when the schools build a new school, there's generally a planning period and somebody's along for the ride and the public is commenting all along the way. But this is almost this close to a done deal, and yet the public is just learning about it. I did find the mayor's remarks curious to say, you promised it would be a secret until tonight. I thought, well, heck, who'd he promise? You know, he didn't promise us. So it's okay. You don't have to answer. I don't really expect you to. But can anybody give just some background?
We have.
Thank you.
Yes, again, this has been going on for several months, and I appreciate and I hear what you're saying. However, it's primarily been the people that really have a direct interest in sports that have been involved with it, such as some of the people you've heard here tonight. The people that are related to sports have been the ones that have been involved with this program along the way. Now, obviously, we have sat down one-on-one with the park board and showed them different plans, and the same with the city council, and the same with the mayor. But it's been an evolving thing that has had a lot of people working on it. And then we get to the point of selecting a site, and what we think is a plan. So then, we sit down with a gentleman like Jeffrey Brewer, and we get him to create us a site plan, so now we've got something to go show the public.
So was this, these were paid for? I mean, did the council approve these expenditures? Was this in a budget somewhere, or?
Yes, that is in the budget. Yes. If I could say, I know we're 10, so I'd like to just point out a couple of numbers if I could, and then I'll certainly. I mentioned when I started that we hadn't built a single playing field in 15 years. I would like to go back only 10 years. And the lady was talking about lacrosse. 10 years ago, we didn't have any lacrosse. Now we have over 500 lacrosse players. And you can say, well, that's because they came out of sports, other sports. And that may be true. However, 10 years ago, we had 200 football players. Today, according to Park and Rec, we have over 1,000, and we still haven't built a playing field. Do you realize they're not all Hoover residents? I'll give you that. But we have over 100 adult softball teams playing on 3 fields. They play 4 games every night to get their games in. And obviously, if they get rained out or have weather, they miss those games. Now, I could also go into the Hoover East and Shades Mountain and talk to you about the parking that's there and how dangerous it is because there's not enough room for parking there, and sometimes you wonder, can you get the emergency vehicles in? So I would simply say that we need to bring the entire city along together, and Park and Rec has lagged behind, and it's time to catch up.
Sorry, keep asking to get up and down, but the resolution before us for the $70 million is, in essence, a not-to-exceed figure. Walk us through procedurally what will come back before this council throughout the project, if it's approved, and how would we be asked to approve different stages? And it may be a projection at this point, but what would those amounts be as we move forward?
Okay. I put together a cash flow chart that shows you the next 5 months through May. And through the beginning of May, we anticipate spending approximately $5 million. The big part of that $5 million is to pre-order that engineered building, and that building cost will be approximately $2 million. Now, one of the resolutions that you're considering hires a construction manager. The construction manager becomes the quarterback, so to speak. Every phase of this project will be competitively bid. It will be brought back to you. You will award every phase of it as we go along, whether it be athletic turf, electrical, parking, or whatever. But it will all be, every phase, competitively bid and brought back to you, and you will be the one awarding the bids.
Thank you. You know, the emails I've received and interpreting those that have spoken before us tonight, not one person has come in direct opposition to this, nor have I received an email from anyone in direct opposition. But the question of timing is a valid one that I think must be addressed, Mr. President. And Mr. Pate, is there anything that we're not aware of that's been said tonight that would prevent this decision from being put off for a couple of weeks?
Well, I think I had previously talked to you, and I didn't intend to do this in public, but that we only have 1 year remaining on the SEC baseball tournament, and that is 2016. I know they are taking, or probably taking, proposals from other cities that would be our competitor. And I think if we can make a timely decision and let them know what we're doing in Hoover prior to that decision being made. And this building, when you say, how does this help the SEC baseball tournament? Well, for years, and I'm sure a lot of people in here have been to Atlanta for the SEC baseball tournament, and you go to Fanfare and you enjoy all the amenities there. And that's what this building would allow. A lot of you have attended the SEC baseball tournament, and you go to the Michael Jordan room, and that's where the VIPs go. This would provide another space for that. Now, yes, they are considering sometime in the very near future about where the tournament will go for the next few years. So I would say that is the one thing that's timely and a reason to pass it.
Thank you, Mr. Pate.
Is there a specific deadline the SEC has set?
Yeah, you can't speak from out there. If you want to come down and speak again, I'll let you.
Is there a specific date that the SEC has set for having bids turned in?
Give your name. Give your name.
Steve. Okay.
Hurts.
You got it.
There is not a specific date. It's just that I'm aware that there will be an athletic directors meeting in the very near future where this will be discussed.
Mr. Waller, resolution 535315, please.
Excuse me. This resolution authorizes the funding for the Hoover Sportsplex project that's been presented by
Mr. President, I move for approval.
Second. Motion second. Discussion from the council.
Mr. President, I believe the proposed sports complex would be an outstanding addition to our city. However, I don't believe the timing for such a large expenditure is right. With so many questions regarding what future funding may be needed to support our schools, I am very concerned about the city committing to such an expensive project until I know with certainty what further assistance the school system may need. I also don't believe the council should vote on such a large expenditure until Hoover taxpayers are given the time to consider committing to a $70 million debt and for them to have adequate opportunity to express their opinions on this project. For these reasons, I move to table Resolution 535315 until the next council meeting to allow sufficient time for public inquiry and input regarding the proposed sports complex, as well as time for the council to review any additional financial assistance that may be beneficial to our school system.
I hear no second. We have a motion on the floor. Resolution 5553. Any additional questions, comments from the council? Mr. Clerk, you call the roll.
Mr. Green?
No.
Mr. Lyda?
Aye.
Admiral Natter?
Aye.
Mr. Reeves?
Aye.
Mr. Skelton?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye. Resolution passes. Resolution 535415, Mr. Waldron.
This resolution authorizes the mayor to execute an architectural services agreement with Goodwood Mills Haywood Incorporated for the purpose of the construction of the Hoover Sportsplex.
Mr. President, I would move for approval Resolution 5354-15, and I have no questions.
Second.
Motion is second.
Well, Mr. President,
Comments from the council?
the agreements that are going to carry within this resolution and the next, is there an out clause for either party?
May I address that?
Yes, sir.
These agreements are subject, excuse me, are subject to legal review by us, the city attorney, and we'll certainly see that there's an out clause in there, and there's some tweaking that we're going to do. But, and as Mr. Pate did mention, he's negotiated a rate that is below what's customary, so those things we do.
Thank you, sir.
Any additional questions for council? Mr. Admiral Natter?
Mr. Walters, it's my understanding that these resolutions are just resolutions, and any expenditure of funds come back before the council for our approval.
That's correct.
Thank you, sir.
Additional
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye, resolution passes. Resolution 535515, Mr. Walker.
This resolution authorizes the mayor to execute a construction management services agreement with Bradsfield and Gorey LLC for the purpose of the construction of the Hoover Sportsplex. And it's the same review that will go, that we will undertake for this contract as well. Money to be spent.
Thank you, sir. Mr. President, I move for approval resolution 5355-15.
Second.
I have a motion is second. Additional comments from the council? Clerk will call the roll. Comment? We've been having that for the last hour.
Quick one. Ronald Singer, based upon his performance as the construction manager during the building of the Hoover Met, Alan Pate, the executive director, be selected to provide these construction management services. Remember, it was the quality of his services that resulted in this great facility, and the leadership that he has provided to the city ever since. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. President, for reclarification for any members that may have not heard me correctly, my motion was for resolution 5355-15.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Lydic?
Aye.
Harold Batter?
Aye.
Mr. Reeves?
I abstain.
Mr. Skelton?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye. I think Mr. Reeves has some relatives there. Resolution 535615.
This resolution amends the budget for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2015 as part of the end of the year closeout.
Mr. President, I would move for approval resolution 5356-15 and understand that what may have appeared as a deficit budget when we passed it originally has now been, if this passes, will be cleaned up and will once again be balanced.
Second.
I have a motion is second. Any discussion from the council? Any from the audience? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Resolution passes. Resolution 535715. Mr. Walden.
This is resolution 5357, correct?
Yes, sir.
This resolution awards bid number 06-15 for public safety communications monopole to Allcom Wireless Incorporated. 6 companies bid on the project. Allcom Wireless bid of $124,122 was the lowest responsible bid, meeting all specifications and requirements. The resolution also authorizes the mayor to execute a contract with Allcom Wireless for the work to be performed.
Mr. President, I would move for approval resolution 5357-15.
Second.
I have a motion is second. Any discussion from the council? For some of you that don't frequent council meetings, we had a work session Thursday night, went over all these in much more detail. So that's why they move a little quickly. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Resolution 535815, Mr. Walden.
This resolution awards bid number 16-15 for Hoover City Hall renovation to Duncan and Thompson. 5 contractors bid on the project. Duncan and Thompson's bid of $2,600,000 was the lowest responsible bid, meeting all specifications and requirements. The resolution also authorizes the mayor to execute the contract with Duncan and Thompson for work.
Mr. President, I would move for approval resolution 5358-15.
Second.
I have a motion is second. Discussion from the council.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Lopez, would you give everyone here just about a 2-minute overview of what these renovations will entail?
I will. I would like to say it's as exciting as parks, but it's not really. It's a city hall renovation. But you guys probably remember a little over a year ago, the police detectives moved out into the public safety center, leaving some area on 2nd floor vacant. And initially that we approved in the 15 budget, we were gonna do some renovations to make an area for my department, the information reporting department, as well as renovating the city clerk's area. When we got to talking about that, among the different departments that are located on the second floor, including finance, human resources, purchasing, and already talked about need to have a redundant data center, redundant from the public safety center, and have something here at City Hall. We decided the best approach would be to reprogram the entire floor. And so that's what this project does. The major cost factors involved here are going to be the fact that we're going to have a disaster recovery site here at City Hall. And what that means, if something ever happened to the public safety center, we could operate here fully, which includes a generator that will run the entire building with what we're doing. As we have more and more departments that are utilizing technologies, this is just a must to prepare this building for the future and have it available 24/7 for those services. So,
Different questions, Ed?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Any comments from the audience? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Resolution approved. Resolution 535915, Mr. Walden.
This resolution authorizes the mayor to execute an addendum to the city's contract with Intelligent Incorporated. This addendum adds a mapping tool to the city's current subscription. This mapping tool will be available for use by the public on the city's website to aid in the economic development of the city.
President, I would move for approval resolution 5359-18.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the council? Any from the audience? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Resolution passes. Resolution 536015, Mr. Walden.
This resolution authorizes the mayor to execute a supplement to the SunGuard Public Sector Incorporated Application Service Provider Agreement. This supplement extends the existing agreement an additional 36 months.
Mr. President, I would move for approval resolution 5360-15.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the council? Any from the audience? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Resolution passes. Motion to approve an ABC application there. Mr. Wilder.
Mr. President, I move to approve the application.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Just had one to approve. Motion to approve an ABC application on Circle K Stores Inc. We had previously approved the Valleydale Highway 150 John Hopkins and Morning Road location.
Mr. President, I move for approval of the applications.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We have an ABC application for the Hackman Group, in business front porch located at 2301 Grand Avenue, routes 109 and 17. This is a change of ownership.
Mr. President, I move for approval of the application.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. At the public hearing, consider the request of Tamitha Boychek, representing Pagasco's Holdings, for conditional use to allow on and off sale retail beer and retail table wine at Pino's Palette Hoover, 181 Main Street, Suite 225. This property is owned by ARC and is zoned C2 Community Business District.
Mr. President, I move for approval of conditional use.
Second.
Motion is second. Any comments from the council? Anyone like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes. I need an ABC application on that, Mr. Wilder.
Mr. President, move for approval of the application.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes. First reading, ordinance number 162294, Mr. Walter.
This ordinance would amend the municipal code to add chapter 9, article 12, entitled Transportation Network Companies, to amend a portion of chapter 8, article 2, sections 8-16, paragraph 10, entitled License Schedule, by adding section 8-16, subparagraphs 10H thereto, and to add chapter 9, article 11, entitled Taxi Cabs.
And we'll have the second reading of that on the January 4th meeting.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
if I could ask the clerk to send me a copy of the current taxi ordinance in the city of Boston. Send all of us for it.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Payment of bills, Mr. Smith.
Mr. President, I review the bills and recommend they be paid in full as presented.
Second.
The second, any discussion to council? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pay the bills, please, Mr. Yeager. Comments and questions from the council?
Merry Christmas.
Additional
Happy
comments?
New Year.
Roll Tide, War Eagle. We're adjourned.